What is the most embarrassing thing you did in front of your crush? Hit her with a dodgeball. Our team won because of it. Same way back in 5th grade I nailed her in the face with that or she got a bloody nose and we won, and to this day I've never felt more confused. We were at a writers' conference. I spent a good long time telling them about some controversy surrounding the use of pseudonyms in a writing contest. I was pretty proud of how well I stated both sides, as well as my fairly well-researched thoughts on the matter. They didn't add much, but I could tell they were interested. About 15 minutes later, I realized that every single time I'd meant to say pseudonym, I'd said surname instead. Never talked to them again. 30 years ago, and it still hurts. I did something amoral once, but it was with a careers advisor, not a crush. Instead of job, I realized I'd been saying dog. I was still with her when I noticed and asked her if I'd been saying dog, and she said yes. I don't understand why she didn't stop me. I must have seemed mental. I think I'd done it because I was saying I want a good job. How do I get a good job? And I think my brain just mixed up the association of good with dog. Crashed my motorcycle in front of her and her new boyfriend. She came with me to the hospital. I won. There was a boy who crashed his motorcycle in front of me and my ex-boyfriend. I went to the hospital with this boy. Now I'm married to this boy. Just a wish. Don't take it seriously. I hope everyone can grow old with the person they love. I tried a somersault, forgetting that I had ripped my pants earlier and one of my balls fell out. If it makes you feel any better, my boyfriend was staying the night at my place when we were just hanging out as friends. I walked past him to go to my other bedroom to get him blankets just as he was getting undressed for bed, and his cock plopped out through the hole in his boxers. He wasn't sure if I saw since he was in my peripheral view, but I did. One of us brought it up way after the fact, and I told him I did see it happen. We laugh about it now. We were on a trip with a whole bunch of friends at this one guy's cabin, and the sleeping arrangements were pretty cramped. She and I ended up on the same air mattress, but both had a sleeping bag. I woke up to her shoving me over, because I rolled over so far that she was laying on the ground. That's pretty cute, actually. Younger me sharing a mattress with a crush, I'd be way too nervous and awkward to fall asleep. I'd probably be self-conscious of my breathing or something dumb. I accidentally sent her a message about her which is supposed for my best friend, and thanks for my stupidity that she is now my girlfriend. My buddy was a TA in grad school teaching a basic foreign language course. He exchanged messages about the class with a law school student who had gotten a job in a place where this was the primary language, needed to learn some basics. She forwarded the exchange to a friend, asking what she thought. Was he flirting? She thought he was cute. That kind of thing. Somehow the friend replied to it, including my friend. They've been married almost 25 years. A friend did this to me once. We had a mutual attraction and tested it out. After a date, he tried to kiss me. I declined. We both went our separate ways, and I got a text 15 minutes after I left from him that said I blew it. I felt the second-hand embarrassment and didn't know what to do, so I didn't respond. He must have realized shortly after and sent the classic damage control text, "Sorry, my friend stole my phone. We're still buddies and chat occasionally." I almost drowned in 5 feet of water. We're getting married this year, Lem Fao. It was accident due to my friend's landlord not taking care of the property properly. It was an above-ground pool. I was lightly leaning on the railing. I was trying to do my best. I'm just a chill, normal dude who's definitely not super nervous in front of this very attractive person pose. The railing snapped. I fell backwards and hit my head on the wooden part of the pool as I fell, according to others. The railing didn't fully detach and my ankle got caught in the bars. I was hanging upside down, head and torso completely submerged. My beautiful, wonderful, strong fiancé jumped in, lifted me out, and got all the inhaled water out. Luckily wasn't a whole lot. Literally saved my life. I luckily only sustained a mild concussion and sprained ankle in exchange for an amazing human being I get to call my love for the rest of my life. Got drunk and told him I'm in love with him. Told him a long list of all the sweet things I do for him, such as leave chocolates on his desk and baked for him using his favorite cheese because I love him. Told him why I felt hurt when he brought this girl along to a function and introduced her to me. Told him how much I wanted to message him on Christmas and New Year's Day. Yeah, basically I told him in minute detail all the feelings I had for him all this time, and apparently, he had no idea. I told him this last week. I've yet to hear back from him. A girl I quite liked also said about the same to me when she was really drunk. Asked her a week later if she really likes me because I kinda liked her. And she said she just saw me as a friend and couldn't remember saying those things, and said she was sorry if she said anything weird. So I dunno, it doesn't really mean something always. I'm super pale and I can turn as red as a tomato in an instant. I work at a thrift store and I saw him come in with his girlfriend. They were looking at clothes together and it was so cute I couldn't stop blushing. I kept looking back at him and hiding my face behind shelves because I was so red. I was the only one on the floor, so I couldn't ask another co-worker to check them out. So I did. I felt my face burning and I was so embarrassed. I knew he and his girlfriend noticed. I had the same sort of thing happen to me. It was in biology class. The lesson was about Ed and the teacher was discussing the simple topic of falling in love and stuff, but that made me think of my crush and my face turned quite red. Because I was panicking, I thought it would be a good idea to comment something. The next thing that happened was that someone noticed that I had a red face and commented on that. So then I turned even more red and felt 100% embarrassment. This caused me to become part of the outcast group of the school. I hated myself so much for this, cried on my way back home. This incident followed me for quite some time. The mean girl who commented on my face in the first place kept asking me on random moments if I was in love with someone and triggering my stupid red face each time. I am quite sure that moment moved my life in a direction, but likely a good one, but I will never know what otherwise would have happened. I was 14 at the time, if that matters. I was talking to a girl I liked in between classes, and we had to go to another building. On the way, we had to go down this shirt marble-esque staircase. It was also raining out. I slipped on the second to last step, and I landed on my back at the bottom. It didn't terribly hurt, but it knocked the wind out of me in both directions. I ripped a fast but hard fart as soon as I landed. I got up quickly, and I could see her trying to stifle a laugh. So I just said see ya and walked back the way I came. After that, I didn't really talk to her again. Me and me crush, my at the time best friend's sister, were exploring on someone else's land and came upon a big boat. I wanted her to climb up with me, but she refused, so I went up alone. The nerves of trespassing got to me and I instantly, needed to poop, which I did, and just as I pulled my pants back up, her head popped up over the gunner. I yelled at her to get away because someone had pooped on the deck and she swiftly went back down before me, walking back. I was musing what animal might have gotten up there to have such a weird human-looking poop. Can dogs climb ladders? But I could tell she didn't believe me, and my crush never evolved to anything further than that. I was 7 and she was 6, by the way, for context. We were in a group setting, chatting. I had almost finished my cigarette, and instead of using my fingers, I tried to blow the cigarette out of my mouth. It stuck to my lip, burned my face. I looked like an idiot. Ever see vid of the dude trying to be cool with a smoke, and he inhales so hard he swallows it? The look of regret in his eyes is pretty epic. I asked her to marry me and she said no and laughed out loud. I was on a date with a guy for Valentine's Day when I was like 14. We were at the cinema and he was wearing a denim jacket important and tried to be romantic and put his arm round me stealthily. But he accidentally caught my hair with his button on his sleeve and it got all tangled. It was less than romantic. Also, poor guy. He got me a big teddy bear saying I love you on the massive love heart it was holding. I got him a DVD of King Kong. Never lived that one down. Her pants, even though I am male me and her have the same size waist. Well, doing some dares, we ended going to another room and swap clothes. Well, I didn't know a friend had slipped me a prank laxative, the evacuator. My stomach starts making dark chants and I try to excuse myself. I didn't even make it out of the room before my colon got repurposed to being a railgun. Had to go to the bathroom and suffer with stomach cramps. I went and showered one they went and washed the pants. I was just sitting there thinking I got food poisoning and the prankster came in to apologize as he misread the dose and it wasn't 15 milliliters and was 5 milliliters. So I spent the next 2 hours just in the bathroom conducting a rectal exorcism. On my first date with a guy, I had a grand mal seizure in the middle of an apple orchard. I started coming to in the ambulance after a nurse that happened to be at the orchard helped carry me to it. He was nowhere to be seen, and I never saw or heard from him again. I also peed my pants during it. Dodged a bullet there. Even on a first date, you'd surely want to at least stick around and make sure the person was okay, right? It would have haunted me forever not knowing. I was in high school and asked this girl out on a date. She said, "How about Friday we go out to dinner and a movie?" In the most embarrassing thing ever, I said, "How about we just go to a movie? I don't think I can get my dad to give me that much money." She actually did go out with me. We ended up doing dinner and a movie, and she dated me for 4 years into college. I can't imagine why. I told her how embarrassing that conversation was years later, and she said she thought it was funny I asked her out but didn't have any money. Well, when I was in kindergarten, I liked this girl, and in my tiny kid brain, I thought that doing front flips and back flips were very cool. I thought that was peak human ability. So I thought I would impress her with my very own flipping S's, which I did not possess. So I improvised. I thought it was just as cool to sit on the ground and roll backwards, over and over. Fast forward some time, and my school used to have a kindergarten dance for kids who passed. Parents were invited. Your kid couldn't go unless you were present. A school dance, huh? Looks like my time to shine. Now imagine you're at a kindergarten dance. You're there to watch over your kid. And then out of nowhere you see this other kid in a tiny suit rolling across the ground like a in Dark Souls character. Safe to say I stayed single for a very long time. That is my first memory. I want to die. This is so dumb, but we were at a pottery shop painting pottery and talking about books. He asked me what I liked so much about romance novels, and I said, for me it's the longing. Wanting what you can't have, fighting yourself and the world to get it anyway. That's the stuff. There was nothing bad about what I said, but I was so embarrassed to have shared that particular tidbit. We've been together for 1.5 years now. He's everything I ever longed for. So there was this guy at work, different department, who I saw maybe once every 2 weeks. He was beautiful, so beautiful every brain cell in my head fled the moment I saw his glorious face. He was very polite and friendly too. So when he would walk past, he would smile and say hi. One time he did that. I spilled a whole can of Red Bull over myself trying to say hi back and doing an awkward wave. Another time I was about to go back inside when the hi came, and I was so dazzled by the smile that I forgot that doors need to be opened and smacked face first into it. That goddamn smile. If I listed it all, the kids on Reddit would be old enough to actually be on it by the time I finish. First, the time I fell flat on my face on some ice. Then there was the time I was speaking so confidently about something that turned out to be wrong, and he looked at me all confused, and I don't even think I need to mention the way I dressed years ago, which he also saw. Then there was the million times he'd be talking, and I would ask what the hell he's saying, and when he'd explain, it would be so straightforward. And the time I was running away from a bee, screaming my head off because it was chasing me and him and his friends were watching. That's all I can remember off the top of my head. All right, my time to shine. I was in the 9th grade, and we were all stuck in a room together taking our yearly standardized test. Cute girl sitting next to me. Let's call her Ashley. For context, Ashley wasn't fat at all. She wasn't stick skinny, but certainly not fat. This becomes relevant later. Anyway, the test is over and we're all sitting around chatting and eating lunch. I forget the conversation, but Ashley says something about not wanting to eat too much because she's fat. Me being the gentleman, I wanted to compliment her, but it just came out wrong. I responded with, "You're not that fat." Oof. Cold winter morning waiting for the bus to college when I was 16. Face was numb with cold, but still plucked up the courage to ask out my crush on a date before bus showed up. She looked at me funny before politely declining. Explained story to my mate who had put me up to it. He was in fits of laughter. Turns out the knob splash put me up to it because I had a huge crusty green bogey perched on the end of my nose like a rhino horn. I couldn't feel it there due to the coldness and wearing gloves. Set my dating experiences back years as I was the bogey boy. Who needs enemies when I have friends like mine? Probably when I misuse words or just make up entirely new ones. I always catch when I do it though, either immediately or even some later time. And I always hope that he knows that I've recognized it, and I'm not a complete idiot. Sometimes I just talk faster than my brain is conjuring up the words lol, or I type faster than it too. Most of the time when I do these things, I crack myself up because it's funny to me, but with him, he doesn't know that I'm actually not dumb, and that spelling and grammar are huge to me. In 10th grade biology class, the girl I had a crush on was sitting in front of me. She had forgotten her textbook that day, so we were sharing. As the teacher went around the room having each student read aloud, when it was my turn, I stumbled over a word that would haunt me for weeks to come. Instead of saying organism like I was supposed to, I said orgasm out loud. The class erupted into laughter, and I was mortified. I could feel my face turning red as I sank lower into my chair, wishing I could disappear. To make matters worse, my teacher only added to the humiliation. Instead of correcting me, he made a comment that only made me feel more awkward. "Keep going, you're on a roll," she said, causing the entire class to laugh even harder. Looking back, it's a funny story, but at the time, it was one of the most embarrassing moments of my life. Not exactly in front of my crush, but in front of her mom, which most likely got conveyed to her or not. So, she's someone I knew since I was 13. Never had the courage to ever have a real conversation with her, but pretty much most of our mutual friends knew I crushed on her, and I often got teased for that. Anyway, years later, I had graduated from college and joined my first job. Her mom was the company doctor. She knew me, but we were not really acquainted. I was just a friend of her daughter's. So first week at job, we were getting our medical tests done at the company clinic. I and a new co-worker were each given a sample plastic bottle for collecting our urine samples. We went to the bathroom, done our deed, and came out. We were walking towards the laboratory. For some reason, my clown of a new co-worker decides to raise the bottle of urine and asked me to show mine to see whose is more yellowish, he said. My clown brain got even more weirder. I raised my bottle, clinged it with his, and said cheers. Crush's mom walks past us at that exact moment, both of us with urine samples raised in our hands. The look she gave us, that is the only face of hers I can recollect to this day. In my mid-30s, still friends with the ex-crush to this day. We chat casually occasionally after I went through some real relationships and lost my inhibitions, but I often suspect she knows this toasting incident. I was 17 at that time and had a major crush on a girl that I saw every summer in Italy. We were on a party and she tried to kiss me, but I freaked out. So I couldn't think for a couple of seconds and poured a beer over her head. Never in my life I had this feeling of shame. I saw her a couple of weeks ago because her brother moved here, and she asked me about. Luckily, she laughed about it and was joking the whole time about it. While having a few drinks with some friends, I got a little drunk and tried to come up with something to talk about because my crush was leaving the city the next day, not to be seen in a long time, and so my autism kicked in and I began explaining to my crush that there's a way of telling the direction of the baggage claim transport thing at the airport. So, instead of saying something meanderingerfiendel, I just kept on explaining the most efficient way of getting your baggage. My friends, who already knew that I liked my crush, just stared at me and one even facepalm. The next day, my crush texted me saying that my advice was actually useful, so hey, at least my random conversation ended up working out. The time has come to tell this absolute cringe moment I can't seem to forget. I like this guy a lot. Well, he tells me about this party a mutual friend is having, so I think he's inviting me so we can hang out, maybe even like a date. So I drive like 40 minutes to get to this party, and it's almost 2 hours before he even rolls in with his girlfriend. I've already told like 5 other people I'm meeting him here, and now I know why they looked at each other. I'm trying not to cry unsuccessfully as I hop into my Jeep and proceed to angrily stomp the gas to make a point of vehicularly storming off. I turned so fast that the back latch opened up and threw a basket of, I pray it was clean but can't remember, laundry all over the yard where everyone was. I just kept going. One of my junior high bullies startled me really badly and tried slamming my locker door so that my fingers were there, so it would have hit my fingers. I luckily managed to pull my hand off right on time to only have it slightly touch the tips of my fingers. However, I got so startled I started crying. So, I cried in front of my junior high crush. At an age where everyone tries to pretend to be as adult as possible, I felt humiliated for it for quite a long time. So long time that I'm sure he had already forgotten all about it. Okay boys, buckle up. In middle school, I was at a youth camp. For some reason, they decided that it'd be a fun game to have a competition where they put a big latex medical glove over the kids' heads, stopping just above the mouth. That way, your nose and head are inside the balloon, but your mouth is outside the balloon. The kid that could pop their balloon first by inflating it won. So you had to breathe in through your mouth and out through your nose as fast as you could. I thought that winning the game would impress my crush, so I was all in. I forgot that I had chronic allergies. I won. My balloon popped first, but it was packed full of industrial strength snot and exploded on everyone else on stage, in front of everybody. Good times. Vomit blood all over him. This was years ago. There was a guy I liked, and we were both in one of the latest extra classes that started at 5 p.m. where you could just work on your own schoolwork. We were often the only ones there, and we would just chat and flirt a bit. Well, he had a bag of peanuts and was trying to catch them with his mouth, and I ended up throwing them for him and vice versa. When I finally caught one, I managed to choke and I vomit quite easily. He tried to give me a hug and I vomited blood and bits of peanut all over his shirt. I have never been more embarrassed. He was very sweet about it though, and I lent him my hoodie so he could change. I think we both liked each other, but neither of us had the courage to ask the other out. Still think about him years later. I'm old, but before we were married, like a month into dating, I threw a fit because we went out with another couple and she tried to pay. I took it as an insult and that she wasn't serious about our relationship, like we were just friends. She just looked at me like I was insane. What an idiot, and how times have changed. We decided to get married 2 months later and have been on a 33-year honeymoon ever since, but I still feel like in a hole for that. Walked up to a group of people she was in conversation with at a party. Someone just wrapped up a joke, so I did the thing from the movies where I laughed along like I was there the whole time. You know, to blend in discreetly. As the laughter died down, I let out an audible and awkward haha, just kidding, as if I had been the one telling the story. No idea where it came from. It just came out. It was the most awkward moment of silence and group staring, and my crush just looked at me with this kind of bewildered amusement as I slowly turned and walked away to live with the weight of my eternal shame. Anyway, that was like almost 15 years ago. We'll never forget. We celebrate our 10-year wedding anniversary next month, so at least that dulls the pain some.